All right, I'm Dustin Helvik, and I am currently the middle school and high school principal in Three Forks, Montana, which is just outside of Bozeman here. I grew up, I'm a Montana native. I've been living in Montana my whole life. I believe I'm the 4th generation. My father, my daughter will be a 5th generation Montanan. I grew up hunting and fishing. I was totally immersed into it since I was probably 3 years old, so I grew up in the outdoors. Well, growing up, a lot of people don't realize Montana is actually a huge state. So I grew up mule deer hunting, antelope hunting, not a whole lot of elk hunting because I lived in the eastern half of Montana, the rolling flatlands, rolling hills and flatlands. So did a lot of mule deer and antelope hunting. It wasn't until I got to college where I started exploring elk hunting in the mountains and got a little more serious, where I became more of a mountain hunter. But so growing up, shooting pheasants, turkeys, all that kind of, a lot of species that when people think of Montana, they think of mountains. You know, I have to remind them that probably 70% of Montana is not mountainous. So I grew up on the other half, but since I've moved to the valley here in the Gallatin Valley, which was about 5 years ago, I really got into the hardcore mountain hunting, I guess. So, I used to do a lot of just weight training, just general running, because I came from a sports background. You know, I grew up playing football, even went on to play a little bit of college football, and so I carried over a lot of that, which was a lot of strength-based powerlifting. And then I decided that I no longer needed to, you know, bench press 400 pounds. So it was like, okay, it's time to change modes, get a little bit lighter, but I could never really find that perfect medium, I guess. So then I started, actually got into, even ran a couple marathons, started running, but then I found I couldn't pack as much as I used to. So it was tough for me to kind of find that perfect rhythm for being a mountain hunter, and that was definitely a challenge. Mountain Tough, I first learned about Mountain Tough through some friends. So once I got in the valley here, met some other hunters who were passionate about hunting like myself, and we went out a few times, and they told me about this program, and they said, you know, just knowing you, you would be into this. Like it's pretty intense. It's geared for the mountain athlete, and I dabble in mountaineering and climbing, and so then I looked them up on Instagram, of course, and I saw them, and I was like, that looks like it could be the real deal. So I reached out to Dustin, and first thing he told me, of course, him not knowing me, he goes, well, it's not necessarily for everyone, but I think you should just come down and give it a shot. So I came down and been hooked ever since. My first impression of the workouts was really like, this is the ticket, like honestly. I'd even done some CrossFit before, I just dabbled with that, and I felt like that wasn't quite conducive to what I was trying to accomplish in my career at this point. Not gonna lie, I got worked over pretty good the first time, but I think I was at that point in my life where I needed someone to give me just a little bit of kick in the butt. And Mountain Tough certainly did that for me. And what I liked about it was it really focused on the traits that I was looking for as a hunter, and just even feeling good about myself. So I think in general, Mountain Tough has really challenged me. Not only physically, but I think mentally more than anything. You know, I'm not like one of those mountain athletes or you would see on TV or has their own hunting show or podcast. It seems like everybody's got their own podcast these days. But, you know, I'm just, you know, really I'm an office worker. I work from a desk. I'm pretty active, but at the same time, I'm not out there training every day or climbing mountains every day. Kind of a weekend warrior, so to speak. So when I joined Mountain Tough, it kind of rekindled or resparked my passion. I've always been passionate about working out and staying fit, but I was at that point in my career. I was a new dad, got married, had a beautiful daughter, and I think we get a little stagnant sometimes, and every once in a while we need someone there to kind of push us along. And I think the Mountain Tough community, more than anything, is what did that for me. And once I got in and met a great group of people, and had this program that really had tested me like no other. And I did some pretty intense training growing up, but this, from all aspects, from physical to mental, I think it challenged me. And really now it was kind of just totally reignited the flame. And so I'm pretty excited, and now I find myself wanting to come here more and more and push in further. And I do get that opportunity to hunt, which isn't, working the hours I work as a middle school and high school principal. I don't have a ton of time. So when I do have that opportunity, I just want to take full advantage. And now having the physical traits that really are geared for the mountains is awesome, because now I can go in, go full bore, and actually feel pretty good about it, push in further, and make the most of my time out there. So, I would say the biggest thing is being able to, obviously, not besides pushing in further and deeper, is just how fast I can recover. I can throw 100 pounds on my back, packing out elk or whatever it may be. In the past, I would be almost wiped out for a couple of days. Now I feel like even after a 20-30 minute break, this year was a perfect example. Packing out, quartering out an elk. I was solo when I shot it, but I was able to get that whole thing out pretty much by myself in a day, where I think in the past that would have taken me 2 to 3 days, or calling a lifeline for someone to come save me. But and I felt, nobody's gonna feel awesome after packing out, hundreds of pounds of meat. But I actually felt pretty good, and I recovered the next day and was able to go out with friends again the next day. And I think that's a testament to what this program can do for people. Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is being able to find that, I don't know if I want to call it middle ground, between having the endurance piece and having the strength piece. It seems like I was on both ends of the spectrum before this program, where when I was younger, more football strength training, I was very strong, but my endurance was very poor. And then I kind of swung the other way, where I started running marathons and that kind of thing, and I lost a lot of weight, but I couldn't strap on even a 50-60 pack and go for pound pack and go for miles. And so I think when I started this program, I think it taught me both those disciplines, the strength and the endurance. I could go high intensity, where if I needed to, for a moment, sprint up the mountain or make that move, I was able to do that and then recover and go back at it. So I think that was the biggest thing. When I first started this program, I was actually training for climbing some big mountains over in South America. And I think probably the biggest compliment I got was when I showed up. I'd been doing the high intensity training with Mountain Tough, and I showed up, and you have to have a guide over there in South America. And those are big mountains, obviously. We're talking steep grades, snow, ice, glaciers. And I got there, and you have to have a guide. And he's always worried when some gringo shows up, and they're like, hey, if you get tired, just let me know. And so we're in teams of 2, and I was with the lead guide. And then we're going up the Cotopaxi, which is a 20,000-foot volcano. And we leave like at 1 in the morning. And he turns around and looks, and I'm nipping right on his heels, and he just looks at me, and he goes, you're in better shape than me, you need to slow down, which was pretty cool. And I truly believe that was because I'd just totally dove right into this program. But I think that was one of the biggest compliments I got. So, and then the strength program, on the flip side with Mountain Tough, was able to maintain that cardio piece. And then I also was fortunate this year, I drew a bighorn sheep tag in Montana, once in a lifetime tag. And just having the confidence, knowing that I was in great shape going into the season, meant a lot, and I could make the most of those opportunities. And that ended up being a solo endeavor. And so I got back in there. I was in pretty deep, probably 12 miles, and got a sheep down on the ground by myself. And it took me 2 days to pack it out, but I was able to get it out confidently. And I think if I wouldn't have been in that good a shape, I don't know if I would have got it out. On the flip side, I did totally deplete myself. And that was right as Mountain Tough was launching their strength-based program. And I was excited because I'd lost probably, I think, 17 pounds from the beginning of sheep season to the end, if you count the scouting. And that was right when I got back from Ecuador and climbing. I went right into scouting for sheep. So I never really gave my body time to recover. I lost a lot of weight, like I said, probably 17 pounds. And I didn't really have 17 good pounds to lose. And I knew I didn't want to just go back to eating like cupcakes and whatever and put on a lot of unneeded mass. So this program definitely built me up. We just finished. After 3 months of doing this, I'm back up to where I should be. feel strong, put on good muscle mass, and yet maintain that endurance piece, which is really nice. I think it means there's a couple different facets there. Always ready, I think, number one, I think being mentally always ready is more important. And if you can make it through this program, which anybody really can if they put their mind to it, but at any moment as a father, or you have to be ready to, whether that's going sleepless nights with a newborn, you have to be ready the next day to go to work. And I work one of those jobs that's considered really high stress. Being a principal, you always have to be ready for anything that walks through the door, whether that be parents dealing with students and whatnot. You always have to be on your game, so to speak. And people are like, what does that have to do with Mountain Tough? But I think Mountain Tough keeps you sharp, because life in general, can wear on you. And you're kind of like a knife blade, you can get pretty dull in a hurry. And I think Mountain Tough, more than anything, keeps you sharp. I would say so, more so mentally than even physically. And then if you look at the physical side, it's just like the example, packing out an elk, or a buddy calls you up the next day, are you ready to go? And I am. I can say it doesn't take me long to recover, and just give me a text or a phone call and I'll be there to help you pack out or anything like that. And same thing when climbing mountains, when mountaineering. I remember the very last mountain we climbed in South America, in Ecuador. There were 3 peaks. The first one was like 17,000. The second one was just under 20,000. The last one was the largest volcano, which was over 20,000 feet. And I remember I got really sick to the point where I hadn't eaten any food for about, 2 days, over 2 days. Couldn't hold anything down, just completely depleted. And here I am with that decisions, and the guide was like, well, maybe you should stay back. And I'm with some buddies from I climb with every year, and they look at me and they go, well, we're never going to be able to make it back here. It's either, so are you ready or are you not? And it's one of those gut check times, and I can say, because of the condition I was in, not only physically but mentally, I was able to suck it up and actually make the summit that day. And of all the crews that were climbing that day, I think only 2 made the summit. Nasty ice storm moved in. It was well below zero. Came out covered in about 1 inch of ice at the summit, but that's being always ready. No nutrients in my body, just completely depleted. It was completely mental at that point. So I think, in a nutshell, that's what Mountain Tough does for you, both mentally and physically. How much you kick my butt? No. I mean, because I've always been in decent shape, and you think, at least you like to think, that you're in pretty good shape. But it had a good way of humbling you too. And just to see other people at the level they're working at, and then he throws in, there's so many different twists and so many different workouts. And also, I think one of the surprising things is just how real applicable it was to being in the field. Because you can sit there and you can do squats, you can do cleans, you can go out and you can even trail run or go run 10 miles, 12 miles. And it never really translated over that well, in my opinion, to packing out 70-pound elk quarter or moose quarter, whatever it may be. So I think that was the thing that surprised me the most, is just how it did translate over to from being in the gym or wherever you're working out to being in the field. I think that was the biggest surprise. I've never had a program do that. I would say you just take that leap of faith, so to speak. You don't have to be an endorsed mountain athlete, and that seems to be a lot of the hype in today's society. Is people think that you got to be able to go out and leap over buildings to go out and hunt, public lands and chase down elk or mule deer or mountain goats or sheep, whatever it may be. I was in the position when I came in here, I was not in the best of shape. I'm just a regular Joe who works, an office job, a lot of hours. I work 50, 60 hours a week sometimes. And I was able to come in here, and I don't have 0 regrets. If anything, I wish I would have started sooner. So I would say, get off your duff and come try it out. And don't be afraid of what people are going to think. You know, it's a great community too. That's one thing about the Mountain Tough program. Whether you're able to do it here at the lab or on the online community, there's a lot of people just like you who realize that they can do it. So get out there and do it. I can't say enough about the program. It's really, I guess, inspired me. It's relit that flame, and I'm already planning my next hunt, my next climb, and I think a lot of that's a tribute to Mountain Tough.